Forget Heisenberg. Forget the man who knocked. In the radioactive wasteland of morality that is Breaking Bad, the true north of the show's compass points not towards the calculating chemistry teacher, but towards his tormented, perpetually lost protege. Yes, Breaking Bad remains at the top of television drama, a searing chronicle of one man's descent into darkness. We bore witness to the staggering transformation of a seemingly ordinary chemistry teacher into the fearsome drug kingpin. This man, Walt, is the undeniable center of the narrative gravity. The protagonist, whose choices propelled the story forward with terrifying momentum. His arc is captivating, a masterclass in character devolution. Yet applying the label hero to Walt feels increasingly dissonant, a discordant note against the complex moral symphony Vince Gilligan composed. For while Walt engineers the fall, it is his reluctant partner Jesse who traverses the ensuing abyss, desperately clutching at the fraying threads of his own humanity. Viewed through the prism of moral fortitude, innate empathy, profound suffering, and the arduous pursuit of redemption, Jesse emerges not merely as the show's pulsating heart, but as its true, albeit deeply scarred and tragic hero. To champion Jesse's heroism, we must first wrestle with the very notion of heroism within this brutal, morally ambiguous landscape of Breaking Bad. This is not a world populated by knights in shining armor. Heroism isn't measured in unblemished virtue or grand world-saving gestures. Instead, it resides in the persistent struggle against encroaching darkness, in the stubborn refusal to extinguish empathy amidst pervasive cruelty, in the insistent whisper of a conscience that will not be silenced, and ultimately in the deep soul yearning for escape and atonement. By this demanding standard, Walt represents a catastrophic failure. His metamorphosis is a chilling portrait of pride unchecked, ego run rampant, and self-deception perfected. Every shred of his former self is methodically sacrificed upon the altar of power, legacy, and a warped sense of self-actualization. Jesse's trajectory, however, is defined by relentless internal conflict. His path is paved with agonizing guilt, illuminated by flashes of genuine compassion, and marked by a recurring, desperate desire to break free from the destructive vortex Walt insists on deepening. From their earliest interactions, Jesse exhibits a moral sensitivity that Walt either never possessed or rapidly discards. Initially depicted as a directionless slacker, a small-time dealer caught in Walt's sudden, drastic ambition, Jesse displays an immediate, visceral aversion to the extreme violence their new enterprise demands. His panicked, almost childlike horror following the deaths of Emilio and Crazy 8 stands in stark relief against Walt's cold, analytical pragmatism. Jesse is physically ill, emotionally shattered, haunted by the grim reality of their actions. Walt, already shredding his suburban skin, perceives only logistical challenges, obstacles impeding his nascent empire. This fundamental schism in their response to taking human life echoes throughout their tumultuous partnership, a recurring motif underscoring their divergent moral paths. Perhaps the most searing testament to Jesse's struggling conscience is the profound and unrelenting guilt he carries over the murder of Gail. Cornered by Walt into an unthinkable ultimatum: kill the gentle chemist or face certain death alongside his mentor. Jesse complies, but the act irrevocably damages him. While Walt can rationalize the necessity, he had to go, compartmentalizing the deed with chilling efficiency, Jesse collapses inward. His descent into a maelstrom of self-loathing, substance abuse, and crushing depression. His home transformed into a chaotic den of perpetual partying, not fueled by hedonistic pleasure, but by a desperate need to drown out the internal screams. His attendance at Narcotics Anonymous meetings become less about addiction and more about a quest for some form of absolution, where he haltingly confesses coded truths about his problem box and the unbearable weight of his transgression. In a poignant, misguided act of penance, he attempts to divest himself of his earnings, the blood money, scattering bundles of cash onto random lawns, frantic to shed the tangible evidence of his corruption. Walt, conversely, meticulously launders his fortune, viewing it as the legitimate fruit of his superior intellect. Jesse's inability to simply move past Gail, his perpetual haunting by the ghost of a man he executed, signifies a moral core that, however battered and bruised, refuses to disintegrate. Jesse consistently demonstrates a capacity for empathy and connection, particularly towards the vulnerable, qualities that become increasingly alien to Walt as his transformation into Heisenberg solidifies. Jesse's protective instinct towards children is a reoccurring vital thread in his character's tapestry. His fierce loyalty to Tomas, the young brother of his girlfriend Andrea, compels him to defy the meticulously ordered structure of the terrifying chicken magnate's operation. This act of reckless compassion, while ending tragically, underscores Jesse's inherent moral boundaries, lines he resists crossing even at great personal risk. His utter devastation upon discovering Walt's monstrous manipulation involving Brock, poisoning the child solely to regain Jesse's allegiance against their employer, is absolute. This profound betrayal represents the ultimate violation for Jesse, severing the final corroded strands of loyalty he held for his former teacher. Later, the senseless, cold-blooded murder of young Drew Sharp by the chillingly amoral Todd during the train heist breaks something fundamental within him. While Walt and the pragmatic fixer Mike can frame the boy's death as a regrettable but necessary byproduct of their high-stakes operation, Jesse cannot erect such psychological barriers. He sees only the extinguished innocence, the unforgivable transgression, and it plunges him into a renewed spiral of despair and guilt, ultimately motivating his decision to cooperate with Walt's determined DEA agent brother-in-law, Hank. This stands in stark contrast to Walt's relationships. His initial motivation, the professed love of his family, becomes twisted into a tool for manipulation and control. He emotionally blackmails his wife, isolates his son, and deploys his family unit as both justification and shield for his escalating monstrosities. His connection with Jesse himself is a textbook example of psychological abuse, a corrosive mixture of calculated paternalism, insidious gaslighting, and ruthless exploitation. Walt claims affection for Jesse, but only when his utility is required, readily sacrificing Jesse's emotional well-being, freedom, and even the lives of those Jesse cares about, all in service of his own grandiose ambitions. Jesse, conversely, forms attachments, however fraught or doomed, rooted in genuine emotion. His relationships with Jane and Andrea, though ending in heartbreak and death, often linked directly or indirectly to Walt's dangerous world, reveal his capacity for love and his deep-seated longing for a normalcy perpetually denied him. Even his grudging camaraderie with Mike possesses a warmth and mutual respect entirely absent in his interactions with Walt. Jesse seeks connection. Walt demands utility. Now let us consider Hank. As Walt's brother-in-law and a dedicated DEA agent, Hank often appears as the show's most conventional force for good. He is tenacious, brave, and driven by a seemingly unwavering commitment to bringing down the drug traffickers polluting his community. In many ways, Hank embodies a more traditional form of heroism, the relentless lawman battling external evil. His pursuit of the elusive Heisenberg is dogged, his moments of deductive brilliance thrilling. He faces danger head-on, enduring trauma and physical injury in the line of duty. He represents order against the chaos Walt unleashes. However, Hank's heroism is not without its own complexities and flaws, preventing him from solely occupying the hero mantle in Breaking Bad's nuanced world. His relentless pursuit sometimes borders on obsession, consuming his life and straining his relationships. His personality often leans towards bolsterous machismo, occasionally manifesting as insensitivity or even cruelty, particularly in his early interactions with Jesse. While his goals are righteous, his methods, particularly as the chase intensifies, can become questionable. His handling of Jesse, while aimed at bringing down a larger evil, involves significant pressure and manipulation of a deeply traumatized individual. Hank's heroism is primarily external, a fight against the perceived monsters out there. He represents the societal structure fighting back, yet even he is susceptible to the corrosive effects of the world he inhabits. His single-minded focus potentially blinding him to the collateral damage and the subtler shades of morality. His heroism is defined by his badge and his mission, a stark contrast to Jesse's internal, deeply personal struggle with his own soul. Hank fights the crime, Jesse fights becoming the criminal, spiritually speaking. Jesse's narrative arc, unlike Walt's inexorable plunge or Hank's external crusade, while Walt embraces the power and infamy of his alter ego, becoming intoxicated by his own legend, Jesse repeatedly tries to claw his way out of the life. he articulates a desire for escape, dreaming of alternative futures, moving to New Zealand with Brock and Andrea, or simply disappearing off the grid. He makes genuine efforts towards sobriety, seeks solace in the unconventional therapy of NA meetings, and finds a quiet dignity in tangible creation through woodworking, and acts starkly opposing the destruction he has been complicit in. Of course, Jesse is profoundly flawed. He relapses into drug use, makes impulsive and often disastrous choices, and bears undeniable responsibility for his role in the meth trade. His heroism is not diminished by these failings. Rather, it is forged in the crucible of his persistent struggle against these impulses, and against the overwhelming circumstances largely orchestrated by Walt. He is repeatedly dragged back into the mire, often through Walt's direct emotional manipulation or calculated threats. Yet the desire to be better, to be free, flickers stubbornly within him. The suffering Jesse endures further solidifies his claim to heroic status within the show's brutal framework. Arguably, no other central character absorbs as much consistent, soul-crushing trauma. He suffers horrific physical beatings at the hands of Tuco, then Hank, endures devastating personal losses, Jane, Andrea, both deaths tragically linked to his involvement with Walt, withstands constant psychological manipulation, bears the crushing weight of his own conscience, and ultimately experiences prolonged periods of unimaginable torture and enslavement under the sadistic watch of Jack's crew. Forced to cook meth while chained, living in a squalid pit, forced to watch Andrea's murder as a direct punishment for his escape attempt, Jesse plummets to the absolute depth of human degradation. Yet crucially, he survives. His spirit, though grievously wounded, is not thoroughly broken. In this context, heroism encompasses endurance. It involves confronting unspeakable horrors and somehow retaining a core of self, a tenacious will to live, a desperate yearning for liberation. While Walt orchestrates suffering and Hank battles it from the outside, Jesse absorbs its most devastating impacts, embodying the profound human cost of Walt's empire and the collateral damage of the drug war Hank wages. The divergent conclusions of their arcs further illuminate this distinction. Walt's story ends in a blaze of calculated self-immolation, securing his perceived legacy, providing for his family, albeit through coercion and tainted money, and meticulously eliminating his enemies. His final, chilling confession to his wife, "I did it for me. I liked it. I was good at it. And I was alive," confirms his journey was ultimately fueled by ego and a thirst for power. Hank meets a tragic, arguably heroic death, defiant to the end, refusing to compromise his principles, even facing certain execution, a casualty of the war he fought so hard. Jesse's culmination in the series finale, Felina, offers a different resonance. Presented with the opportunity by Walt to finally exact revenge, to execute his tormentor, Jesse refuses. "Do it yourself," he commands, reclaiming his autonomy, refusing to be Walt's instrument of death one last time. His escape from the compound, screaming with a potent cocktail of terror, grief, agony, and cathartic release as he smashes through the gates, is not a victory lap. It is the desperate primal flight of a survivor finally breaking free from literal and metaphorical chains. The feature film epilogue, El Camino, serves as a vital postscript, cementing Jesse's position as the show's surviving moral center. The film focuses entirely on Jesse's immediate aftermath, grappling with severe PTSD, evading capture, and desperately attempting to forge a path towards a future. It is a narrative about confronting trauma, seeking peace after enduring hell. We witness the physical and psychological scars, the terrifying flashbacks, the ghosts of his past, but crucially, we also see his resilience, his resourcefulness, and his unwavering determination to reach Alaska, a symbolic frontier representing a clean slate, a final definitive escape. While Walt's story concludes in death amidst the instruments of his destructive creation, and Hank's ends tragically in the desert, Jesse's narrative continues, striving towards healing and the possibility of a life rebuilt. He carries the immense weight of his past, but he moves forward, embodying a fragile, hard-won hope that Walt's path precluded and Hank's sacrifice tragically cut short. Acknowledging Jesse as the show's hero necessitates confronting his significant moral failings. He willingly participated in a destructive enterprise, contributed to addiction and suffering. He killed Gail. He made choices that resulted in terrible violence. He is no paragon of virtue, But Breaking Bad masterfully explores the spectrum of morality, demonstrating the terrifying ease of corruption and the agonizing difficulty of retaining one's soul. Jesse exists within those complex shades of gray, constantly wrestling with the darkness that Walt embraced with chilling alacrity and that Hank fought externally. Jesse's sins are undeniable, but they are consistently framed by remorse, by genuine attempts to protect innocence, and by a persistent, though often faltering, desire to do good, or at the very least, to cease doing harm. In the final reckoning, Walt provides the electrifying, cautionary spectacle of ambition curdling into monstrosity. He is the unforgettable protagonist, the engine of the narrative. Hank represents the flawed but dedicated arm of justice, fighting a necessary but costly battle. Yet heroism, particularly within the bleak universe of Breaking Bad, demands more than narrative focus or societal function. It requires a moral compass, however damaged, a capacity for empathy, however strained, and a relentless struggle towards something better, even when faced with overwhelming adversity and profound personal failures. Walter White chose to become Heisenberg. Hank chose to fight Heisenberg, paying the ultimate price. Jesse Pinkman, despite being dragged through unimaginable suffering and forced into horrific acts, fought against Walt, against his captors, and most profoundly, against himself. To preserve the vestiges of his humanity, he suffered, he endured, he felt remorse, and ultimately, he broke free, carrying his scars but also the flickering ember of potential redemption. In the morally ravaged landscape of Breaking Bad, it is Jesse, the heartbroken survivor, the reluctant accomplice with the perpetually aching conscience, who stands as the show's truest, most tragic, and ultimately most human hero. He is the enduring testament that even in the deepest night, the stubborn light of the human spirit, the capacity for guilt, love, and the unyielding desire for freedom is the most heroic force of all.